What's up, guys? It's John Dominique, the Soul Proponent. Today, I want to talk about the separation anxiety that we experience on the path to the soul. This is a very intense, a very pungent, a very potent feeling that we get when we approach spiritual awakening. It's a sense of free falling, a sense of emptiness with no ground. It seems like, we're jumping off of a bridge, jumping off of a building. We don't know where we're going to land. There's nothing to hang on to. The ego starts to shit a brick because it's going to be obliterated, annihilated, erased out of existence. This is a very traumatic feeling, and most people want to avoid it at all costs. The separation anxiety is an intense feeling, and to feel that in its entirety feels like it's too much to bear. It's this feeling of vulnerability, of helplessness, of shame. The ego identity, its internalized process of judgment is going to be alarmed. It's going to kick into overdrive mode, and it's going to hate itself. It's going to hate everything. It's going to hate its own hatred. And this is a very tender area. We have to be very super compassionate, and we have to take our time. This is not something that we can do if we're not ready or willing to do it. So the separation anxiety is pretty difficult to deal with, especially on a long-term basis, because sometimes if we're in a good mood, or if the setting is right, if things are okay around us, if circumstances and situation tends to support us, we can take some steps towards spiritual awakening, and the separation anxiety won't be so bad if we have a support system around us. When it gets tricky is when we have to feel that separation anxiety when things are crumbling around us, when it feels like there's no support anywhere for it. So basically, the separation anxiety, we have to be able to build our own tools on the inside of us. We have to build the muscle, build the structure, build the foundation to be able to withstand the intensity of the separation anxiety. It has to be internal, and it has to be consistent across the board in all situations, at all times, everywhere we go. This is a very deep and difficult work, and it takes a special attitude, a very special type of mentality to be able to brush everything else aside, because what's going to happen is that the intensity of the ego's survival instincts are going to kick in. It's going to go into overdrive. The instinct to survive is the resistance towards the spiritual awakening. And that separation anxiety becomes so intense, it seems unbearable, unforgivable. The hurt and the pain overwhelms us. But if we slowly build our way, let's say, for example, during when something small happens, like maybe you lost your keys, maybe that separation anxiety will visit you during a time like that. If you can bear separation anxiety during a situation, maybe when you lose your keys, then you build your way up into, okay, well, maybe I can stay with the feelings of the hatred, stay with the feelings of the helplessness and the vulnerability during the times when you lose your keys. You can build your way up to other situations in your life to the point where you can stay in a state of vulnerability all the time, stay with the state of helplessness, stay with your feelings and allow those feelings to be there. And the feelings are going to overwhelm you, but we don't have to act on them. We don't have to do anything about them. We can just let them be there and let them teach us. Those feelings become really intense. The separation anxiety becomes like overbearing, and it becomes dominant. It becomes, the ego wants to avoid it. It wants to repress it. That's the ego's job. It doesn't want to feel its feelings. But if we build ourselves and allow those feelings to be there in all situations of our lives, and build our way to the, increasingly desperate situations, we can slowly begin to have the ground, build the strength, build the fortitude that we need to be able to do it in all situations. And that's the practice. So then when we come to a place where we feel we have no control, when something major happens, maybe, we get in a really bad accident or something like that, then during those times when the vulnerability comes and the helplessness comes, we can stay with those feelings and let them overpower us, let them overtake us, but we don't get lost in them. Then we know that they're not going to last forever. We're going to have enough wisdom to know that our experience will eventually change. It doesn't determine us. It doesn't define us. It doesn't mean that that's the end of the story. And that's where a lot of people get tricked, I guess, is because they think that's the end of the story. That's the end. You won't survive, and that's basically it, and you'll die. And that separation anxiety is, when you're in it, it seems easier, or it seems more difficult to remember how to react. Allow the reactions to be there, but don't attach yourself and fixate yourself on those reactions. Don't think that they're the end of the story. It's easier when we're coming out of it to talk about it, but when we're going through it, that's when we have to practice the most. That's when we need to be able to do the work of allowing separation anxiety to just be there and understand it and see that, it's a gift. This is like a crucible. This is the pressure that forms the diamond, the irritation that creates the pearl. Separation anxiety is a very heavy topic, and it becomes very serious very quickly. It's, like I said earlier, no one wants to face the separation anxiety on the path to the soul because it's so intense, and people want to kind of brush it over. They want to push it to the side. They don't want to deal with it. But there's the only way to spiritual awakening is to go through this separation anxiety. Now, what's going to happen is that emptiness, we're going to lose all hope. We're going to lose all of the usual familiar ways, familiar manners and patterns that the ego identity has of avoiding this anxiety, of avoiding the emptiness. It has multiple ways to do that. It's hanging on to relationships in its head and its mind. Relationships, it always has this sense of duality. It's me and something else. That sense of duality is not going to be there any longer. We're going to see how badly we've been depending on that when we start to face the separation anxiety. We're going to see just how much we've entrenched ourselves, how much we're adding to our own suffering. And that's not an easy thing to see. We have to be very compassionate with ourselves. We have to be super duper kind. We need kindness. We need mercy to allow this type of work within ourselves. And this is all internal. This is not looking outside ourselves. So the ego, again, has that sense of duality of internal and external, that it's embedded and ingrained in all of its relationships, on all its human relationships. So, it's looking for mother, it's looking for father, it's looking for the value of what it can gain out of its relationships. It's looking for the way to survive. And without survival, without the ego knowing that it's going to survive, it seems like life is not worth living. It doesn't feel like there's going to be any good that's going to come out of this. It's like, well, why should I do this? There's nothing better. So when when it becomes more painful to live your life without knowing God and having spiritual awakening than it is to continue living the life of avoiding the spiritual awakening, then things can occur. That's when we know that we are at the border of being ready and being prepared. We have to exhaust all our options and see for ourselves that what we're doing doesn't work. The way the ego is operating is on a false basis. Everything it operates on is false version of its identity, a false version of the value it thinks it can get from its identity, a false version of survival. But we have to suffer really, really for a really long time and suffer very deeply before we get to the point where we hit that rock bottom. When we hit that rock bottom, we know that the separation anxiety that we feel, the vulnerability, the helplessness, the hopelessness, the desperation, all that separation anxiety, when we separate ourselves from everything we think that we want, all the things that we've been reaching for and craving in our lives, when you know that they're not going to do any good, that's when there's some development can happen. So it's a twist in our attitude. It's a shift, a slight shift. We give up hope. We give up all of the trying. We give up our fixations. We give up our attachments. All of our relationships, all of our, the attachments to our family, the hopes and our dreams for our families, the desires, the ambitions, a lot of things we don't even know we're holding on to. Separation anxiety is huge. There's a gap, there's a big hole that we're always trying to fill. That ego identity doesn't want to feel the emptiness, the massiveness of the hole. It's as big as the cosmos, as big as the universe. But that emptiness has to engulf us. It's going to dissolve us. We have to allow ourselves to be dissolved into the emptiness. And the separation anxiety won't go away. And even at the very end, though, it's not like the separation anxiety is going to go away one day and we'll never be there. What will happen is we'll disappear, and there won't be an identity have a separation anxiety for a while. It happens for a long time. The emptiness is going to be there for a long time. We can't get around it. So some people want to fake it. Some people want to try to do something to get around it, to avoid it, to repress it. It can't happen. You have to go through it. Very difficult for people to hear this. Most people don't want to deal with it because it's too difficult. They don't know how to approach it. If we're approaching it with trying to get something out of it, like, well, we think we're going to get a spiritual awakening, so we're going through this path and we're anticipating it. It's not going to work. It doesn't work that way. We have to let go of our anticipation. We have to let go of our needing, of our attachments, and then let go of the letting go. This is very counterintuitive. This is an experience too. This is on an experiential level. Most people are like, well, intellectually, mentally, they want to keep it on a mental level. That doesn't work. This is a direct first-hand experience. It's not on the mental level. It's a matter of the heart. I can assure you that going on the path of the soul, there will be a lot of separation anxiety. It's almost like if you have a dog that you love a lot and you leave it at home when you go to work, that dog it'll whimper, it'll cry, it'll get really depressed, really sad, and it'll miss you. That's kind of what it's like. We go through that when we're children, like when we sleep with our mother, like when we're infants, we're always sleeping with our mother. But when they put us in our own room, in our own bed, in our own crib, that separation anxiety, like we end up pissing the sheets. And that's part of the separation anxiety. We have that type of same feeling when we, it's another stage of that separation anxiety that occurs when we're children. It's similar to what happens on the path of the soul when we separate from all the things that we're accustomed to, all of the familiar ways of our ego, of our family, of our culture, of our education, our history, our memories. All these things we're going to be separated from, and this is not a walk in the park. It's not. We know how painful it is, and nobody wants to continue to feel that pain, but that's the path. If we practice long and hard enough, we'll be able to build the strength to allow the vulnerability, the emptiness, to allow ourselves to be dissolved by the emptiness. The separation anxiety won't dominate us as much anymore, and we build ourselves to the point where the separation anxiety we know is just temporary. We go through it, and we know that it's for the better. Now, we're doing this because we're trying to get something out of it, though. That's the tricky part. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to look deep and see what our motivation is and why we're doing this. So separation anxiety is heavy, but we have to know that we're only doing this for the love of the truth. Leave any comments, any suggestions if you have any questions. This is John Dominique, the Soul Proponent.